Actually, in this situation, we'll start at 8, which is now. We're going to stay on topic and task. We will not use our cell phones. We will not grade papers. We would only express positive and constructive comments. We would be attentive and participate. We would be respectful of others. And if they miss this meeting, we'll have a video update that you can make up. All right. How we going to do this? I'm not going to, it's going to be participation. What we're going to do is we're just going to start over here. And what we're going to do is read a section and just keep moving. All right. Now, after you read a section, if you will pause in case I have comments or in case someone needs an interpretation. All right. I want to make sure that everybody understands. And there are going to be places that we'll skip, but I'll let you know what these places are. Highlighted, I'm going to follow with this, and the highlighted parts are the changes, and if it's a long highlighted part, I'll talk. All right, in case it needs to be properly interpreted. All right, who can tell me who's grateful this morning? All right.
I'm just grateful to have woken up this morning.
Grateful to have woken
up. And I
up.
honestly thought about it first thing this morning.
All right, good. Anybody else?
Grateful not to be in the best hospital in the state.
Not to be where?
Not to be in the best hospital in the state.
Not to be in the best hospital in the state, or any hospital. Right? Anybody else is grateful?
I'm grateful that my daughter's surgery was a success yesterday, and she was up and hopping around at 11 o'clock yesterday.
Amen.
And her surgery was at 8:30.
Amen.
Wow.
Very good. Very nice. That's a good report. I'm grateful. I had those kidney stones. I'm gonna tell you what, I passed them something. You know it. I'm ready to shine because of what people was telling me that I was in for. And I went to my 2-week annual duties. And, you know, I was just drinking water. Somebody told me to drink beer, but I told them I didn't want to become an alcoholic trying to pass kidney stones. And I was drinking water. And I was at Buffalo Wild Wings, and I had to clear my bladder. And I said, what was that? And I didn't think no more about it. Then when I got to my room, I said, what was that again? Didn't think no more about it, came home, went to the neurologist, and those things were gone. People were telling me it's like having another baby. I ain't had no children. I'm gonna tell you what, though, prayer changes things. The first day, and Miss Watt's mother can attest to it, when I went in the emergency room that first day, I was signing the paperwork like this. I didn't even stand up, but that was the only night that I had a problem with that. And I am so thankful and so grateful that I didn't have those kidney stone babies like everybody was telling me. So we want to continue to be grateful. We all have something to be grateful for because we popped our eyes open this morning and we all got here safely. All right. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go around the room and go through this handbook, and then what I'll do if we pause and we need to interpret anything, we'll get a proper interpretation. All right, so we'll just start right over there on the wall over there. We'll start at, we'll skip, no, we'll start at accelerated reading. All right, don't everybody go at one time. And what we'll do is we'll read that section, and then the next person will read the next section, and the next person will read the next section.
Accelerated reading. Because each department is placing additional emphasis emphasis on reading, and because of the number of novels being read in the language arts department, AR books will be bonus books only. Instruct students taking an AR test to tell the library staff which teachers to be notified of the grade. Students will not be allowed to test on more than 2 books per class each 9 weeks. Full test scores will not be released.
Any questions on accelerated? It's something that we've been doing. I think last year with the reading strategies, we had more students taking the test, but they can't take those tests for extra credit. All right, advisory team?
Washington County High School advisory team consists of administrators, counselors, media specialists, ROTC, and department chairperson. The following rotation schedule facilitates a staggered rotation to ensure that the team consists of experienced members as well as new members each year. The new rotation will be 2017-2018. Therefore, each chairperson and department chairperson may rotate every 2 years. Departments will be given the opportunity to rotate chairperson or keep that same person in that position.
All right, that's nothing new. We changed the rotation. We had a staggered rotation at one time, and we couldn't remember why we did that. And it was difficult to keep up with what departments were rotating, so we just made it easy, and we're just going to rotate. The 2017-18 is the next rotation. However, the departments do have the choice of rotating that person or decide to keep the same chairperson in place. All right, we'll skip the norms. No, we won't. All right, do the norms for each advisory team meeting.
Norms for each advisory team meetings are as follows. Each department chairperson must meet with his or her department the day after the meeting to relay all information to the department. If the department chairperson cannot attend the meeting, he or she must have a representative from their department attend the meeting. All members must be supportive of all decisions made at the meeting and take ownership in each decision. Minutes will be read and finalized before leaving each meeting.
All right, we have the meeting, we have the department, and we also video those meetings. So when the department chair meets with you, or if you want to see how the whole meeting took place, that video will be sent, and at your leisure, you can look at the meeting and you can see. But in those meetings, as you'll see, is we collectively make decisions, we take concerns, and we try to come up with some type of solution. All right, after school dismissal.
Teachers are expected to release students according to the following. All bus drivers will be instructed by home teachers to report their bus numbers in their notebooks. Students will be dismissed by the bell. All students will be dismissed at 3:30. All late bus drivers must report to the cafeteria until their bus number is called. Teachers should be at their classroom doors when the students are dismissed.
Okay, any questions about dismissal? All right, announcements.
Wait,
Oh.
that's different. Sorry, that's
Good.
different, right? We've never, they just all go to the bus ramp.
Yeah, we used to have them in the cafeteria and call them by, but that's been changed.
So we're not gonna, okay.
Yeah, the ones on the bus ramp, we'll take care of that.
Okay.
Thank you for catching that. All right, announcements.
Announcement must be posted daily in each classroom. Students must remain silent during the announcement. PE and fine art will print and read the announcement.
Okay. All right, we're gonna do announcements a little differently this year. You know, we did the videos, but there were some inconsistencies. You know, we have that announcement period put on the first period, but we've had some that stayed with that period. We had some that didn't do it at all, and then we had some that did it later in the day. So we had students not getting the announcements and not hearing the announcements because of the inconsistency. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go back to announcements over the intercom. So we'll do announcements over the intercom this year. I hadn't decided if it's gonna be me or if I'm gonna let maybe some of our ambassadors or some of them. I still need to decide who's gonna do the announcements, but it will be over the intercom. And ROTC will do the pledge, but I'll get with ROTC on how we do that. So we will do announcements over the intercom every morning. So, so it can be consistently delivered, and then we don't have people missing announcements. Yes, sir. Yeah, well, we're gonna still send the printed announcement, so if y'all would, y'all read it. Now, if for some reason the intercom goes down, you'll still get the printed announcement, so as a backup, okay? So as a backup, all right? Any questions on announcements? All right, I'll do attendance. All right, attendance. Sign in daily, no later than 7:45. If you arrive after 7:45, you must sign in with Ms. Shedrick. Ms. Shedrick will be on this side. So if you arrive after 7:45, you don't sign into the time trace. You go sign in with Ms. Shedrick. Now, y'all know you can sign in your rooms, but sometimes the computers are late coming up. That's why we have these designated sign-in areas. And we set that with Verizon, all right? If you in the parking lot and it's 7:45, then you already know you need to go straight to Ms. Shedrick. So you have to be here by 7:45, not get here at 7:45. Because if it's 7:45, because you know what's gonna happen, you're gonna get in there and you're gonna hit some people probably in line. So just govern yourself accordingly for that. During each 9-week counseling session, faculty and staff tardies will be counted. If the total amount of minutes tardies equal a quarter of a day or more, this time will be deducted from your personal leave. If there is no personal leave available, the total amount of tardies will be deducted from your pay. Let me tell you what happens. We're all on salary. So you're already paid for that time. And you have to understand it. And when we're ever audited for time, then you actually have gotten paid for time that you were not here. So that's why that's like that, okay? Because that was late, and you know, sometimes we get just like the children. We were late, so we just didn't sign in. You know, I'm late, so I'm just not gonna sign in.
Does this week count?
Sir?
Does this week count, or is this kind of a?
We'll adjust. It's an adjustment week, and after the handbook, then everything's official. All right. Okay. So we've had teachers that come in late and just chose not to sign in at all, thinking that we can't track it or whatever. So sometimes when those things happen, we have to make adjustments and keep everybody consistent. So that's kind of where the signing in the office after 7:45 came in, because quite frankly, I had teachers that was coming in late and just chose not to sign in. So when we have that, we have to make adjustments. Teachers are expected to record all times missed from the school day. If you come in later or leave early, you must complete a personal, professional, or sick form. The appropriate leave form must be completed and correct. We saw an example of that yesterday. Notify your department chair and administrator. Use appropriate forms to request personal or professional leave. Absence the day before or after a holiday will not be approved. Now, that's a case-by-case basis. You know, but you do have, sometimes you do have emergencies come up. So if I'm in Jamaica and it's at the end of the holiday and a bad storm comes up and I can't, make it back, then of course that would be approved. Things like that. But just because I'm in Jamaica and I'm getting my groove back, I want to spend 2 or 3 extra days over there, and that won't work. Okay? Ma'am?
So late, party started with Sheldrick, but the sick leave and personal leave forms, are they still gonna be?
Yes, ma'am. They'll still be on the side.
The shelter home CPA.
They'll be on her side, okay? And let me put a stop there, now that you said that. Let me introduce, we already introduced our new people at the breakfast, but let me do it here. So if you're new, just stand up, please, and we'll kind of introduce yourself and tell us anything about yourself that you want. We'll start over here.
I'm James Powell, teaching math, my 28th year.
Where are you from?
Was in my own county, close to that.
Okay, we won't hold that again. You have a seat. After you do, you have a seat. Yeah.
My name is Kiana Linton. This is my second year teaching. The first year I did down in Muskogee County. I'm a 2010 graduate, and yes, Miss Virginia down in the cafeteria.
So if y'all have any issues with Ms. Lemon, go tell her mom.
I'm Christy Hinton. This is my 23rd year in education. I'm teaching 6th grade in the job.
All right. Y'all remember Ms. Hinton? I don't know, but when I was at the middle school years ago, Ms. Hinton was at the middle school years ago.
I'm Jessica Watts, and this is my first year teaching 10th grade geometry. I'm a 2006 graduate from Washington County.
Jessica played basketball for me, so y'all know how I'm feeling right now. Now she played basketball, now she's one of our teachers, so that's crazy.
I'm Lindsay Wilford, Lindsay Gay now. I got married in May. I'm doing Spanish, and then I'm the middle school athletic trainer, and then the assistant softball and soccer coach at the middle school.
Lindsay was another one of those ram in the bush I spoke about at the luncheon. It was Abraham. But I had skipped Sunday school, and I said Adam. So I got it kind of wrong. But if y'all understand, y'all know Ms. Williams went on to be an assistant principal over in Hancock County. And if y'all don't understand how hard to get math teachers, well, any teacher for this matter, but math teachers and foreign language teachers, I had one application, and it was from a guy from Atlanta with 41 years of experience who taught French. So, you know, I was praying hard. And I told Miss Cunningham that I'm going to put her in the auditorium. But all the Spanish, we're going to treat it like a college course. But we was hurting. And then I was leaving the board after a meeting, and I stuck my head in with Miss White and Lindsay's application. She said, well, I got Lindsay here. And I looked, and I said, well, Lindsay's PE and kinesiology, and so I went to the car and called her before I even left the board parking lot. We talked about it, and she had that Spanish background. She come to see me, and the rest is history. So that's my Brandon Bush. Yeah. All right, sir.
Lieutenant Colonel retired as of yesterday. I'm now a Mr. I just put in 26 years with the Air Force. I'm with the ROTC detachment here, or the ROTC unit. Came back from Seattle a few weeks ago. Just happy to be part of the team. I am the poster child for clueless, since I have not been in the teaching arena or the high school teaching arena my entire life. So Sergeant Tennyson is taking me under his wing and showing me the way.
That's another ram. Because as of like May or April, I didn't have an ROTC instructor. I mean, we had to get with Sergeant Tennyson, and then I didn't, you know, with Major Heron leaving, we at the point around April, late April, early May, we thinking, you know, might have to put a parapro or something, or if we didn't have the ROTC program. And lo and behold, I looked at my email. I got one from Lieutenant Colonel here and retiring, and so I was able to go, whew, then we got everything adjusted with Sergeant Tennyson, so our ROTC program is good to go now.
Good morning. My name is Dean Wiltshire. This is my 15th year, and I'll be in business education.
All right. I'm gonna tell you, we got Mr. Williams from Jefferson County, and this principal was not happy with me. Dr. Long, we became, kind of good acquaintance along the way, doing all this principal stuff, and when I spoke to Mr. Wiltshire, he's got a good relationship with Dr. Long. And normally, in the principal's way of doing things, when you talk to like a member, some principal, especially when you know them, you kind of sit on the heads up, hey, I'm gonna talk to, so and so and so and so. But Mr. Wiltshire said that he would like to be the one to have that talk with him. So I granted his request. And then after he spoke with him, of course, Dr. Long wasn't happy with me because I didn't give him the heads up. So I shot him an email and just told him, that Mr. Wiltshire respected him enough that he wanted to be the one to tell him. And he replied, yeah, I got a bird for you next time. So he was not happy. So his loss is certainly all right.
Good morning, if you don't know me, I'm Renee Ogden. I've taught my girls, Kingsley and Casey, I have 2 girls. I'm not originally from here, I'm from Douglas, Georgia, Coffee County. I've lived here for 17 years and I look forward to working with y'all.
All right, I do too. And I'm going to get back to this hand for you. Okay, I guess we're on the, okay. Notes, you must be present with professional learning days. Only administrator can approve sending an unsupervised class to an alternative location, library, gym, or other. All right. Any questions on that? Attendance. All right, we'll skip character education and go to cheating.
When students caught cheating, the teacher will do the following: notify the parent, instruct the student that the work is to be made up within 24 hours, notify the parent and appropriate administrator of the results at the end of the 24-hour period. Note, this policy may not apply to term papers that are plagiarized.
All right, any questions on that? That's been in place for a while. All right. Check out.
Each teacher is expected to submit a completed checkout form before leaving for the summer. The following items must be provided and verified: grade book, blue hard copy, no summative reports, parent contact log, calendar items for the next school year, physical inventory, list of failures by course, fundraiser reports for the next school year, monies, receipts, and invoices cleared, media center clearance, copy of exam and answer keys, list of students eligible to take makeup exams, room cleaning and maintenance requests, athletic items for coaches, teacher if required, and student portfolios. List may be adjusted.
All right, y'all know we'll have a checkout list that we always do. The blue hard copy notebooks. Grade books. All right. We have the records law where you have to keep records. And the first, you have to have those hard copies of the grades in case, we have some kind of cyber hostage situation where they're holding our records hostage until we pay a lot of money. That happened to some hospitals in the past. But in all of your record keeping, especially grades, you have to have a hard copy in case Infinite Campus goes down or anything like that. Or if someone comes back. A good example is this is when the law changed with the graduation test. And they went back and granted everybody, if they were successful, and the only reason they didn't get their diplomas because they didn't pass the graduation test. Well, I'm gonna tell you, if our counselors hadn't been proactive on this, and what our counselors did, now this started back in, 97, Tony, something like that, 94 or 5. 3, something like that. But they started back then, but what the counselors did, they went ahead back then and put the students that had completed it, they had inserted their diplomas in their folders, you know, back when this thing started. So they had the forethought to do that. Well, 10, 20, 15 years later, the law changed. So now, because of what the counselors did, when people came and said, well, the only reason I didn't graduate is because, you know, I didn't pass the test, we were able to go right to the file, verify it, and hand them their diploma. I mean, it was an effortless situation. Now, we wouldn't have had those records, and y'all imagine, we'd have had to give everybody that walked in the door a diploma because we didn't have any way to verify that. So that was huge, but that's what that record keeping, and that's what those hard copies are about. Now, if the issue with the summative reports was that we were turning in summative reports and we were just turning in a stack of summative reports. So it wasn't separated by class and by 9-week. You know, it just wasn't separated, okay? So, Ms. Smith, help me out here if I'm wrong, Ms. Smith. After that first 9 weeks, as you're keeping your hard copy or whatever in your grade book, we don't mind you running a summative report, but it has to be, you need to run that report after that 9 weeks. You understand what I'm saying? And then put it in there. So at the end of the year, it's after that 9 weeks for that class, for that period. So it's just like you turn it in your grade book, but it's all separated. So if Alan Gray come and I was in first period PE in Ms. Shedrick's class, then when I go to pull Ms. Shedrick's grade book, it looks just like the blue book would look. I don't have to try to search and find. So if you're going to use summative reports, do it 9 weeks, run it off that 9 weeks, have it separated by class, just as if you was handwriting it in the blue book. And then we'll take that at the end of the year. Or you can do it the old-fashioned way and just record in the blue book. Any questions on that? Yes, ma'am.
Where can we get a blue grade book?
We'll pass them out.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll pass them out. Any questions on that? Yes, ma'am.
It has to be in the blue grade book because the way I did it, I did all what you said, but I put it in a notebook and had it in a divider, and then I labeled each marking piece of each class.
That's
so
fine.
I turned mine in.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it with summative sheets.
Yeah, and I always waited to the end of the marking period every time to do that.
Yeah. Maybe we can look at yours as an example.
Put the summary sheets in the grade book instead of giving me these big 3-ring notebook things that don't, You just put those pieces of paper in that grade book, in the little slots that it goes in. Everybody will have that grade book instead of 3-ring binders that I get this ones and then this ones.
Okay.
Put it in the notebook, in the grade book in those slots.
All right, we'll get clarification as to the way it should look. But y'all, anybody got any questions on what I'm saying? Okay, so either you do it in the blue book, by hand, like you've done it even before computers come out. But if you want to use those section summaries, which is okay, but it has to be, looking just like the blue book would look. All right, any questions? Everybody good? Sir?
Any way we can maybe turn the air up? Just,
turn it up?
Is everybody good? Y'all call anybody else cold? I just feel like they're cold.
Y'all cold?
I didn't know if anybody else was a little bit. Sorry. Feels good to me. Why am I here?
class to monitor behavior and dress code. Classroom door will remain locked when the room is unoccupied. During class, students should be in the classroom unless they are called to the office. Students are not allowed to use teacher computer. Students are not to be left unsupervised in the room. Teachers should avoid being alone with a student. Be sure to leave the classroom door open whenever there is only one student in the room. Teacher will set an example for students by following the faculty dress code. Teacher will set an example for students during announcement, pledge, and moment of silence. All classroom celebrations will be teach-led. No homemade food or drink, exception. Food or drink made by the teacher. And the teacher must purchase or bring the supplies to school. Students will not be allowed to bring supplies to school.
All right. We stand in the door. Y'all know we have students in our rooms and students in the hallway. All right, so we have to, if this is the door to the classroom and I'm standing on the wall like this, I have no idea what's going on in the classroom. And we've had a few instances last year where things was going on in the classroom, and because I'm propped outside the door or I'm talking to my neighbor here, then I have no idea what just happened in the classroom. So we talked about the proper way to stand in the door, and I'm going to demonstrate. You all in my class, so I'm standing like this, where I can see the hallway, and I can see what's going on in the classroom. Okay? I'm not like this. Well, I have no idea what's going on here. And you can stagger yourself. You know, the next teacher could be looking this way. All right? But we have to have eyes on in the classroom, because we did have a few situations where things happened in the classroom. We had no clue that was going on. And when we have to leave it up to students to tell us what happened, then we just have to kind of negotiate the consequences. And, you know, if it's a fight and an adult didn't see it, and by the time you get in the room, they done separated, then we don't, you know, we talk to the kids, and y'all have no idea, a whole variety of different stories that we get. And the kid can have a black eye and what no punches thrown. I'm telling you, that's the truth. We had a situation where this boy and the girl decided they're gonna get, if that's the door, they're gonna meet in the corner of the classroom every day before class starts. And, you know, do the touchy-feely thing, and then go to their seat. So what we did to catch them is those things right there, they record. These things right here, they record. So we pointed this to that corner. So when they came in the next day, they had no idea they were being taped. So of course we were able to show that to them and their parents. But you have those kind of things going on if we're out with our backs against the wall. If we're not in there, again, just lock our doors. You know, if the kids are, sometimes we have kids that during lunch, if you're tutoring students during lunch, you know, that's okay, but just don't, they can't be just hanging out, okay? And then they need to eat before they come to you for tutoring. But let it be a tutoring set. They can't just be hanging out in your room, okay?
students to conduct themselves at all times in a manner that facilitates learning environment and the other students. These standards for behavior require students to respect each other and school system employees and to obey all of the CBOE policies and rules. All teachers are expected to know, support, follow, and enforce the code of conduct in its entirety in all situations involving the CHS students. Application of the 6-step discipline plan and target policy is expected.
Okay. This year, what we're going to do as administrators, between each bell, we're going to be out in the hallway with you. Okay, so that should assist in enforcing the code of conduct and the dress code, and just give a little added supervision in the hallway. So we'll be strategically placed as administrators between each bell to get those kids where they need to be. Yes, sir.
Good. On the, you know, we were doing like security, like we got that blind spot, I call it Kissing Corner, we have Lover's Lane down there. You know, we have one teacher usually stands there watching it, with leave one of us, so usually one teacher does 2 rooms. But also that our lounge that's back there, when we're in the room, anything can go on, we can't see it. But we need to get a key to that door so we can lock it as we use it needed. Because once they discover that, then that would be a good little spot for them to sneak away from.
Okay. Okay.
And, you know, I think I mentioned before, on that corner he's talking about, I don't know if we can get like a little mirror to put up in there. Well, actually, we could kind of stand out of doors and kind of glance back and see what's going on back there. Because otherwise, somebody has to cover 2 classrooms or somebody else goes to watch that.
Right.
But that is a primo gathering spot right there.
We'll try to get, and we do have a camera on that hallway, but that's being reactive.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So we'll try to get one of those. We'll look, Miss Parker. Where is Miss Parker? You know the mirror he talking about, like they have in the grocery store, with those big round mirrors, and they go up in the corner, and I can stand here and look, but I can see what's going on down that hallway. You research that floor, like run over to Harvey's and see what they get there. But so we'll be out there, and the biggest thing about supervision, and y'all heard me say it, is just being consistent and not looking the other way. And if you stop a student and they become, and we mostly know the students who we don't want to talk to, because every time we talk to them, they go into this big old thing about how I'm not being fair, and you're the only one that, but you got to understand, students have things that they default to. They have defaults too. They have things that they default to. And one of them is, at the end of school, you're the only teacher that's making us work. Another one is, you're the only teacher in this building that's keeping up with tardy. And they'll try to make you feel guilty about you enforcing the code of conduct. Or, when I went to the office, they ain't do nothing to me. You know, they have, those are defaults. Just like we have defaults. You know, some of our defaults is, I wasn't trained in that. Nobody told me that we can do that, or we can't do that. So we all have defaults. Even I, when I'm talking to Dr. Henry, oh, Doc, that must have been a disconnect. You know, so we all have those defaults when we get in those situations. Don't pay attention to them defaults. Just enforce the code of conduct. And then we get later, we'll talk about how we made some changes in that. But if we consistently enforce it, they're going to complain. They're going to, you know, not want to do it. Y'all know what I say, just disengage, do what you need to do on the form, and we'll take care of them. Don't get into no arguments. Don't get into, you know, you can just point or whatever. We'll be in the hallway. We'll be there to assist you, okay? All right, copies?
Digital office equipment copiers will be provided for you to make copies. Teachers must put their names on all so that the copies can be identified.
All right, those new copiers that you have in your room, and y'all, before the copiers where we had to buy the little cartridges, you know, we asked you not to run tests and do things like that. But then we purchased y'all copies that don't have the cartridges, but they have those, I don't know what you call them. Tumblers. Toners, yeah, toners. Each one of those copies will copy up to 5,000 copies. So you can run your tests, you can run all of that stuff right there in your room. What we're saying with the names on the copiers is because sometimes we run copies and back in the room, in the media center where the copies is, we'll have copies all over the table. And we'll try to look at what content it is, but we still don't know who it belongs to. So if you use the copiers, especially the ones in the media center, stand there when you make copies, stand there with your copies, and when your copies are finished, please take your copies with you. Because the thing we don't want to do is we keep wasting paper. They're going to do like they did when I was in Harlem. You got a cold, and when you had so many copies, when you ran out, that was it for you. All right? So now, me being a PE teacher back at that time, I was loaning copies because I didn't have to use a lot of them. So I get to the copy machine, and I got an English teacher standing there and ran out. I type in my code and let them get some of my copies. Because I didn't run out. So, but we don't want to get to that. Right now, we can do copies as we need. I think the Schoology, that's going to help us some. It depends on how deep into it you get. But when we request paper, then, they'll make the comment, well, we just brought 20 boxes over here 2 weeks ago. So if they're making that comment, then in this building, they're making a comment over there. So let's just, if you make copies, we don't mind you making copies. You can use your one in your room now because it do print to print your test if you so desire. It doesn't flip, it doesn't staple, it doesn't put holes in it, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but you can use that to make your test copies. All right, duty stations.
In addition to supervising students in their classrooms, all teachers are expected to provide supervision at specified duty stations in the following manner. All teachers must report on time to their duty station, take supervision duties seriously, address code of conduct violations as they occur. When scheduling conflicts occur and our teachers are absent for any reason, teachers must find a replacement to cover their duty station. Duty assignments should be included in the emergency plan folder.
All right. We have duty station norms that we're going to send out just as a reminder. In the cafeteria, we're on duty in the morning. Those students, unless they're getting breakfast, unless they're throwing away to a lunchroom too, unless they're getting breakfast, unless they're throwing away their tray, or unless they're coming from breakfast, other than that, if they're not moving with a purpose, they need to be sitting down. There's no, I'm coming over here and I'm standing up and, yeah man, what happened this weekend? If we see this, we need to tell them to go and have a seat, okay? So they need to, and they know it. Now, our ninth graders may have to get adjusted to it, but they know it. But they need, if they're not what I call moving with a purpose, then they need to be sitting down. And for the most part, they do a good job of that. Every now and then we'll get that standing up. If they, they can move from, if I'm sitting over here and I want to go talk to this part, I can move to that empty chair. That's fine. But they need to be seated. Cafeteria as well. And we'll talk more about the dress code when the changes we do in the dress codes and times. All right. Emergency plan folder.
Emergency plans folder, each teacher will maintain a substitute folder which must contain 5 days of instructions and assignments. Copies of classroom sets must be included. Replace materials as they are used. Class rosters and seating charts for all classes. Class and bell schedules, discipline forms, name and room number of department chair. Time and location of all duty assignments. Department chair must know where the emergency plans folder is located.
Okay, that's something that
I thought Ms. Parker had on last
yeah. So let's just make sure we have, that's something where Schoology can help us, but again, it depends on how deep you get into it. But we have to have those emergency plan folders, because something may happen and you may be out and didn't plan to be out. So you have to have those emergency plan folders. All right? Yes, ma'am.
But if we're out, substitutes can't bring like computers into the room for them to use as well. So it wouldn't.
So they can go to the computer lab. Yes, ma'am. And I'm glad you brought that up. If you're out, again, and your plans and your emergency thing is on Schoology, all right, just have your sub go to computer lab. And then the students can pull up Schoology, pull up the emergency plans for that class, and we can go ahead on with business as usual. Now, the problem is if we have a number of you all out at one time, and we don't have enough computers. So then that's why we'll need a hard copy and one on the school.
Or if the labs are being used.
Right.
Because there's certain times of the year they stay pretty good.
Testing and things like that. Okay? So that's why we need that hard copy. It's an emergency plan folder in case something comes up. Now, if you know you're going to be out, then you just do your lesson for the sub like you normally do. But we need those emergency folders in case something comes up and you're going to be out and you didn't have an opportunity to it was unexpected. Okay? That way we don't have a sub in there without anything to do. Any questions on that? The emergency response plan, that's the orange, that's those orange notebooks that everybody will get. You'll get an updated copy, and it just tells you what to do for intruders, fire drills. You'll have updated maps in there as to where you need to go, and especially on fire drills, intruders and active shooter and things of that nature. As far as the teachers are concerned, it's pretty much the same, where you keep the kids quiet, get them away from the door, lock the door, and then you got your cards. And then you have your red, green, and yellow cards that you put under the door. And this year, if you have a window, you're going to have an 8 by 11 card that the emergency management wants you to put in the window. So if it's an active shooter and they have binoculars, they can see if that room is in distress. Yes, sir.
What do we do when we have windows?
You just do it under the door. Yes, sir. Because once the building is clear, when they come in, they're gonna go to the rooms where the distress is indicated first. Okay? So, but you'll get that emergency folder. We'll do some of that stuff the first day of school. We'll do some of those things the first day of school as far as the emergency response plan. We also have those defibrillators, and we're purchasing those cases, and we're going to put them strategically in places throughout the building. So so they won't be behind a locked door. In case something happens, you'll know where they are. You just go open the case and get them. So we're in the process now of purchasing those cases with the little alarms on them. And then we're going to place them where a camera is, you know, so the camera is looking at them. Those things are expensive. And we don't want nobody taking them for home use. All right. Faculty dress code. All right, who's next?
Dress, grooming, and personal cleanliness standards contribute to the morale of all employees and affect the school image that Washington County High School represents to all stakeholders. During school hours and/or school activities, employees are expected to present a clean and neat appearance and to dress accordingly to the requirements of their positions. Employees who appear for work inappropriately dressed will be sent home and directed to return work in proper attire. Under such circumstances, employees will be charged a tardy or half a day, depending on the time away from work. Continuing violations could result in further disciplinary actions.
Okay, as far as what we can wear, that has not changed. You know, we can't do denim. One thing that Dr. Hinton did hit on is the I don't know what you call them, the leggings or the leggings, the tight, yoga pants. Y'all know how we'll wear those and then wear the t-shirts, and the shirts come down, or not t-shirt, but whatever y'all call it. Listen, I'm careful when I'm talking about women's clothes, because my first year I got in trouble for saying you can't wear shoes with the holes in the toe. I got slayed on that, so I'm real careful. But you can wear a dress, you can wear like a dress, and then if you got the tights up under them, then you're fine. But it can't be like that shirt. Y'all know what I'm talking about. The who? Tunics. Okay, you can't wear the tunics with just the tights. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Okay. So it has. You can wear them like under a dress, like a regular dress. And then if you want to wear the tights up under them,
just bought the cutest dress and bring it.
If it's that other way,
Get this little section, just pull this little section, replay it.
I did the best I could.
You pulled it off.
All right, phone use. Oh, any questions on the dress code? If you get up in the mirror and you get dressed, okay, and you got a little doubt, you probably don't need to wear it. All right, y'all go ahead.
By that little new dress.
It's hanging up.
Faculty fund use. Funds may only be used during the planning period and/or lunch. Cell phones should not be visible to the students. Cell phones must be turned off during instructional time. Headsets and/or Bluetooth phones are not allowed at school.
No change with that, that's how we've always done it.
Any questions on that?
Well, you know, some use their phone for like grading and responses and.
Trips must be taken for the purpose of meeting curriculum objectives. Each group is allowed one out-of-town trip per year. Turning all bus requests to the school prior to the day of the trip to Mrs. Smith for administrative approval. Bus requests should be accessed online.
All right, what did we leave on?
We covered a lot, Coach.
All right, we talk about, what did we leave off?
Ms. Hilton,
Field trip.
Well, page 20, Coach.
I bet y'all off. That's 37.
We read those too.
So we good on cell phone. Any questions on cell phone? All right, we own, that's part of our duty norms. We can't be on those, but y'all will see it. We'll address the cell phone.
But someone did bring up, Coach, about, we're talking about Schoology. You're using that app on your phone if it's a school-related, matter, cell phone.
Oh, yes.
Of course,
If
it's talking
it's
conversation.
Schoology or something like that, you're fine. Flickers and stuff like that, you're fine. Field trips, are we on that or we already? We already read?
Halfway.
All right, now, on these bus requests, all right, we got a real shortage of bus drivers. Okay, we got a real shortage of bus drivers, and when we have our coaches meeting, we're gonna talk about that a little bit. But those bus requests have to be turned in 2 weeks before your trip. And we have to turn them in to Miss Smith, who in turn is bringing them in, and I sign them, and we get to the bus shop. And what we have to do is make sure that they have a bus or they can accommodate your trip. Because, you don't want to turn it in and then all of a sudden we don't have a driver, we don't have a bus, and then you can't go. So if you know you have a trip coming, then make sure you turn those things in so that we can check and we can approve your trip. And then that way we can,
I just made it warmer.
oh, you did?
I did, I made it warmer.
Okay, all right. All right, and that way we can make sure that your trip was approved, okay? And on the trips, we have to send out that list. I think, probably down there somewhere else.
It's on the next page.
Oh, it's on the next page. But we have to send out the list to the faculty so that they can determine whether that student is doing what they need to do in order to go on that trip. So you have to send it out in time in order to do all of that. Okay? All right, next, where we at? Focus assignment? Y'all read all of that on that trip? All right, just go ahead where we left off.
The field trip must send out a roster at least 1 week prior to the field trip. Teachers should review the list and determine if there are any students on the list who are in danger of failing for the year. If so, they should immediately reply to the email and let that faculty member know. If the field trip sponsor receives 2 or more replies on the same student, then that student is not eligible to go on that particular trip. The faculty member should then revise the original field trip roster and resend the updated roster to the faculty. A minimum of 5 days notice to the faculty is required. No locally planned trips or activities may be scheduled 2 weeks before, 2 weeks prior to the main administration of milestones. This does not apply to GHSA activities. Students must be in dress code and remain in dress code during all field trips and school-related activities. Note, Washington County High School will no longer accept personal checks of any kind. All financial transactions must be handled in cash or money order.
All right, that's pretty self-explanatory. Now, where it gets a little dicey or where people want to use their interpretation is the part that students must remain dress code on all school trips. You have to be in dress code on all school trips. Now, there are some times when our students are going to
Literary. Like if you go on the literary and you dress up.
right. Thank you. That's what I'm saying. If you're dressing up, meaning nice dress, young men like that, then we give you a little flexibility on that. But it's not the bus leave and we stop and then everybody get in blue jeans. And that happened. When we were in the old school, and what happened, I was still in my office when we had two or three groups went to the fair or somewhere. One group remained in dress code. The other group, when they got on the bus, the teachers let the kids change their clothes. Now, you know I was talking earlier about we have those defaults. But when I addressed those teachers about that, they all went into that default. I ain't see nobody out of dress code. I don't remember, no, nobody on our trip out of dress code. And then sometimes we forget there's video on the bus. So I pulled the video up. One young man had changed the blue jeans with a big old hole in the calf, went up there and sat next to the teacher and had a conversation with him. So I'm like, you don't see that? And then when they got off the bus, they talked to him in a circle, giving them their instructions as to what time to be back, and half of them was out of dress code. If it's a school trip, y'all, they have to be in dress code, unless, like Ms. Fair said, they're dressing up, not down. All right?
Dr. Gray.
Ma'am.
That dressing up, and when they're dressing up, some of those dresses are up, they're too high,
Well,
so they need to make sure that that goes checked as well.
That's right. Well, when we're dressing up, we know there's a certain length in the skirts. I mean, we know that, and we know in dressing up, it can't be denim. You know, we know dressing up, we have even certain things in the dress code that even when we're dressing up, that don't mean that those things go away.
Yeah.
Okay? So if they're gonna dress up, y'all make sure that they understand what that means. Okay? Okay. Focus assignments.
In order to maximize instructional time, all teachers are expected to have a focus assignment at the beginning of every class period, every day. Focus assignments should be curriculum specific and should be included in assessment measures. Focus activity plans should be written and submitted to the department chair to be maintained on file. Students should enter your room daily and begin the focus assignment. They should not be allowed to stand in the halls waiting for the tardy bell to ring. Rituals and routines.
All right, that's, focus, warm up. You saw the new format for lesson plans, so it'll be written in your lesson plan. You just make sure it's on the board. And as we're standing halfway in the door and in the hallway, that's so we can redirect them and get them into doing that focus activity or that warm-up activity. And if we get them from day one in those rituals and routines, routines and rituals are different than rules. So you have your things that you do in the classroom as rules, but then you'll have your routines and your rituals. Like raise your hand before you speak, or raise your hand before you speak, wait to be acknowledged. Raise your hand before you get out your chair. When you come in every day, sit in your assigned seats. And if you have your seating chart, you put your seating chart if you want. You don't have to be in alphabetical order, but you need to have a seating chart where those students know where to sit every day. Those are your routines. At the end of the period, ain't no standing at the door. There's no standing at the door, before the bell ring, in anticipation of the bell ringing. You stay in your seat, because we'll be doing a closing activity. You need me, Mr. Wynn?
I need to see Mr. Raymond.
Okay. Mr. Raymond? Need to see both? Okay. in their closing, when you're doing your closing activity, you know, if it's a routine, then those kids automatically know when that tone sounds, they won't start packing up. That's classroom management. They won't start packing up, they'll start getting ready for your closing. If we do it consistently and we do it as a routine. Some of y'all wasn't here when we had, when we were transitioning, we had one-way hallways. You know, later on, the superintendent told me she didn't even think, she told me, she said, you know, I didn't think that was gonna work. And she told me that. She said, I saw the one-way hallway, and I didn't say anything, but I didn't think that was gonna work. And you all know that it worked. But the way it worked, it was a routine and it was a ritual. And now you had some to try to turn up every now and then, and you're gonna have that. But the majority, again, we're not gonna make our minority our majority. But the majority of those kids, when that bell rang, they turned left like they were supposed to, and they walked, and they crossed those courtyards, and they knew what was two ways, and they knew which hallways was two ways, and they followed it. So we didn't have those log jams. But those are those rituals and routines that you have to establish, and it may take you, I can remember Miss Kane used to practice for 2 weeks. And I just read an old Harry Wong book I was cleaning up, and he was talking about classroom management and rituals and routines. And he said it takes about 2 weeks of practicing it and getting them into the routine of doing it. Because you can tell them that first day, okay, sit in your side seat, and if you don't check them the next day, they done migrated over there on the side of the room where their friends are. So it's that classroom management, and it's good classroom management is directly related to good instruction. If you don't have good classroom management, then it's going to affect your instruction, because you're going to be constantly. And then, but if you get to rituals and routines and you do them every day, and then when they try to zig, when you say zag, you get them back in line, then they're going to understand that every day this is the way it's going to be in my classroom. But if we let them wear us out, then you're in for a long year with your classroom management piece, okay? So we'll try to establish, now we're gonna have rituals and routines that's gonna be school-wide, or, you know, just like one is, they have to be in the door by the time the tardy bell finish ringing. If they're not in the door by the time the tardy bell finish ringing, then they're tardy. Another one is, they don't get up out of their seats until the bell sounds for dismissal. So we'll have rituals and routines that's school-wide. But on top of that, you have some that you'll establish that fits your situation. Okay? All right, we'll skip free and public education, and we'll go to fundraisers.
All faculty members regarding raising money for any reason must adhere to the following. Obtaining approval of the WCHS principal and board of education is necessary before the fundraiser may begin. Fundraiser items may not be sold during the school day nor during or between classes or lunch. Fundraiser items may be sold before and or after the school day. Only 4 fundraisers per year will be allowed for any group or person. Only 2 fundraisers per year will be conducted with outside companies. Fundraisers should not last more than 2 weeks. Fundraiser reports must be completed for each fundraiser and submitted at checkout. Washington County High School will no longer accept personal checks of any kind. All financial transactions must be handled in cash or money order.
All right, we're going to update it. You know, the new law, that new law came out that governs fundraisers, and it was directly attached to the nutrition, the federal nutrition guidelines. And that's why we couldn't do the like the donuts, we couldn't do any of that stuff during the school day. I know we got before the school day. And it couldn't be done until after school. Delivering, y'all remember when all that, delivering them and all that had to be done after school, or we were in violation of those new federal guidelines. As of right now, same president's in place, same first lady's in place, those guidelines are still in place. Now, once this new election, they may change, but until then, all of those rules still apply. If you're taking money from the students, make sure you give them that receipt, and make sure that you do that fundraiser report, because you know you got to turn that in to Ms. Cade. You know, what your items were, what your profit was, and all that kind of stuff. And that goes to Ms. Cade. So any questions on fundraising?
Faculty, we can still write checks, right?
Yes, ma'am. Unless you're in house, then we'll just deal with it on an individual basis. But yeah, we faculty, we can write checks. So any...
Now, is it just food products that can't be sold in the school?
We can't sell anything during the school day because it causes disruption sometimes in the other classes. If you're doing candy, I prefer you do the one where you get the little folder thing, and then people sign up, then they pay, and then you order it with the money that you have. Now, some of y'all like to do the candy bars, but if they do the candy bars, what's going to happen is they're going to try to bring them to school and sell them. You know, so just keep that in mind. They will try to bring them to school and sell them. And so we prefer you do the one where you sign up, people pay the money, and then you order exactly what it is that you have the money for. If you do those candy bars, if it was like me several years ago, when I was a basketball coach in Harlem, I had some boys who, we did the candy bars, you know, the M&Ms, you know, you could get a variety packs. And I had two boys that decided not to turn in their fundraiser money. One of them got his car fixed with the money, and the other one did something else with the money. But they were on the debt list. It took me about 3 years to get my money. But they were seniors and wanted to go to the prom and wanted to do all those things. And they come running to me, talking about, I said, yep, bring my $87. So eventually I got my money, but that's what those candy bars would do. All right, pyramid of interventions, we'll move past that. All right, money.
All orders must be prepaid. Money must be collected before the product is ordered. Receipts should be given when money is collected. Deposits are to be made weekly. Fundraiser collection forms must be completed and turned in when fundraiser is completed. All money will be submitted to Valerie Parker, the WCHS bookkeeper. Students will not be put on the debt list for fundraisers. The administration will not collect money for you. Washington County High School will no longer accept personal checks of any kind. All financial transactions must be handled in cash or money order.
Well, that first line, all those must be prepaid, money must be collected before the product is ordered. That's what I was talking about. All right, any questions on the money? All right, grading.
Numerical grades are reported in the teacher's grade book and online at Infinite Campus. 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, 59 to 69 is an F. All teachers are required to have at least 10 daily assignments and at least 3 assessments per 9-week grading period. When it is deemed necessary to post a grade lower than 59, the teacher must discuss the issue with the department chair, the supervising assistant principal, and the student's counselor before seeing the principal. The following is required: documentation of ongoing contact with parents, documentation of ongoing contact with appropriate guidance counselor, documentation of ongoing application of pyramid of intervention strategies.
All right. The reason why we go no longer than 59 is for mathematical purposes. Somebody is lower than a 59, sometimes it's almost impossible for them to recover. That's been in place way before me. That's just been a practice that we've always followed. And a felon is felon, whether it's a 59 or a 69. We do ask that if the student has a 69, 89, and things like that, well, especially at 89, when you talk about hope and things like that, just be mindful of that. And maybe it's something, if they have an 89, maybe it's something that if you're mindful of that, if you want to give them extra work, if they're 89.3 or something like that, just be mindful when you're talking about hope scholarships and things like that. Okay, so just keep that in your mind. And a 69, if they 69.4 or something, maybe something that you can give them, you know, that they have to do and to help themselves. But you know, that's completely up to you. I can't.
Just imagine if it was your kid.
Yeah, I can't mandate. I just ask you to keep that in mind, especially those, more so those 89s. Those 89s, because that could be a difference. Am I right? That could be a difference in a kid receiving a whole scholarship. You don't want a kid sitting there with an 89.4, and then later on down the road it affects their opportunity to get a hold. Okay? So more so the 89, not hurting those kids. All right, we know our grading periods, 2 semesters, and each semester consists of 2 9 weeks. We do our grade distribution sheets, do our report cards. Of course, we do our semester exams at the end of each semester, and then we do our final exams, and then our state testing, whether it's an SLO or a milestone. This is where I was telling you that the averages change from 60-40, now it's 75-25. We left the AP advanced placements the same. AP teachers, if y'all will look at that and decide whether y'all want that.
That has to say, as far as the AP guidelines, tests have to be 50%.
There you go, okay. So I'm glad I didn't mess with that. Okay, thank you. Course recovery and summer school averages will be the same. You know, we count the daily grade and then the test grades. Semester exams, they went from 20% to 15%. And again, the AP semester exam percentages stayed the same. Of course, the milestones and SLOs still count 20%. As Dr. Hinton said, in the milestones, the number of tests that were given has changed. If you have a milestone, you only have to test 2 of your classes. You don't have to test all 6 of them. If you have a measure, if you have, not milestone, SLO, I'm sorry. SLO, not milestone. SLO, you're required to test 2 instead of all 6. So you can select what 2 classes that you're going to do the SLO in.
Dr. Gray.
Ma'am.
You know, we kind of ran up on that in the math department last year.
That's right. That's right.
I mean.
But here's the, if you have a measure, so if I'm an algebra teacher and I'm an advanced
college ready
teacher, and I have a measure, then I don't have to do a milestone in my other classes. SLO in my other classes.
But what about, let's use these two. Both of them are teeth, I don't know what we're calling it, but let's call it algebra 2 because that's something we all know what it sounds like, right?
Right.
If her children slow and his children don't slow, what about their grades at the end of the year?
Right. So, and this came from the state. So what, and that's a question I'm gonna talk to Dr. Hinton about, because we ran into that last year. Because what you're gonna have is my students being held at 20%, but hopefully in this situation, the only ones I see that really my fine arts and my PE, those, the people that have Spanish, the people that have all SLOs. Because I'm hoping that our content academic teachers have at least one other measure. So if they have at least one other measure, then you don't have to do an SLO. So if I'm a mouse, go ahead.
Just to make sure I read that right, so like if I'm teaching, half my classes U.S. history, I have a milestone. Does that mean for my world history, I don't have to do it?
You don't have an SLO because you have your one measure. But you're all world history.
But my thing is, like, if I have 2 courses that I pick out of my 6,
right,
then that 20 or 20% of their grade is affected by it.
Right.
Correct. Is that state or is that?
Now, that's what I'm going to talk to Dr. Hinton about, because SLOs are local, and I will see if we can adjust the percentages.
Because all that is doing is giving the state an idea of how these students are progressing with the SLO.
Right.
But if we if that SLO is not part of their grade,
right,
then all is fair. Because I can see students who are, later on, it's going to kick you in the butt with honor graduates.
Right.
Because of 20%.
20%, right.
Because that's a year-round.
Absolutely. So that's what I have to get clarification from. Now, the other side of this, where it's, well, I mean, even if I'm talking fine arts and PE and I only pick 2 classes, then if I'm not lucky, if I'm lucky enough, if I'm unlucky to be in those 2 classes. So that's more to follow on that. So I'm tracking that in my mind.
That's something that I've had, and I've told them, I said, we're just doing things the way state tells us to do.
Right.
But that's something parents are
Absolutely.
very, very much, and if my child comes home
Absolutely.
and says, well, Mr. Moore's children don't have to take
Absolutely.
this,
We got some explaining to do. Absolutely.
I mean, that's
schedule change.
Yeah,
We can control that. But that's more to follow on that. Those are the same concerns that I had. 20% some and not 20% others. Now, the flip side of that is you can take English and math, like Doc said the other day, not do SLOs, but your English and math milestone scores, or the will just count for everybody. So you can do that and not give SLOs at all. So that's another option that they have. So when Coach May went there and the guy from the State Department was there, he said no more SLOs, and the place erupted. But he didn't tell them that you can take English, that you have to have some type of accountability measure. So you can choose not to do SLOs, and then whatever English comes out with, that's everybody's measure. Or what math comes out with, that's everybody's measure. So it counts for everybody. And like Doc said yesterday, if I'm PE, I'm gonna do my SLO, because I want to control my growth percentile, myself. Okay? But more to follow on that, I will check on that, because SLOs is a local thing, and like you said, if we're just using it to see where the kids are, does it have to be 20% of their grade? So I will check that. All right, Infinite Campus. Who's up?
I'm up. Infinite Campus. All faculty members are expected to maintain infinite accurate and up to date. Graded assignments should be entered in the Infinite Campus within 5 school days for class assignments and 10 school days for tests from the time they are given. The parent portal is available for parents to monitor his or her child's academic performance.
Now, y'all have done a great job with this. I have not received a complaint with teachers not putting their information in Infinite Campus. So we really appreciate that. And we still have to maintain our Infinite Campus. You know, I know we got the Schoology thing going, and we still have to maintain our Infinite Campus. We still have the we still have the parent portal available, and then we still have the Schoology information available. All right. I got thinking about this morning. Mr. Rash asked about Remind 101. I think we still should use Remind 101. I know I said something different yesterday, but Remind 101 is a great, real quick thing in notifying parents, and it's really easy. And you can notify a parent, your child missed, check Schoology for their homework. You know, so we'll continue to use Remind 101 and not replace it. All right, internet use policy. We just have to follow all the ethical and legal rules as far as the internet is concerned. That's a board thing, so if you're not real sure, and we usually get those internet authorization forms that we sign, which goes into more detail about the internet. Lay coaches, we do not do lay coaches at the high school, because with me, a lay coach, there's no accountability for them. They can do something, get in their car and go home, and then I'm stuck sorting out whatever, or trying to undo whatever they did. So, but we're fortunate enough that we have enough coaches that we don't have to rely on lay coaches. I won't say we won't ever, never, ever rely on a lay coach, but it has to be an extreme circumstance, like we don't have nobody available or something like that. We have not ran up against that. So those of you for lay coaches is basically coaches that people, they don't work for the school system, but they come over here and coach, and you pay them like a little supplement. And GHSA allowed, because of the coaching shortage, they allowed that. They have to take a test and become a certified lay coach, but we just don't do that. All right, lesson plans. We talked about lesson plans. We have the new lesson plan format, and board policy is all teachers and schools are required to have written lesson plans for at least a week in advance. Then once we get into those dates to remember, we'll get more into that. All right, somebody do makeup policy.
Makeup policy. Teachers are expected to adhere to the makeup policy as presented in the WCHS Code of Conduct. Familiarize yourself with this policy. Students are to take makeup tests in a classroom or another supervised location. Do not send students to the library to take tests. All teachers are expected to have a makeup workstation in the classroom. The makeup workstation must have all information necessary to complete its assignments. The makeup workstation must be clearly identified and visible.
Now, you know, with this, you know, you do makeup work, but keep in mind there may be some students that do not have access to internet at home. So if you want to, if it's not a whole lot of them and you have your half time day and you allow them to do it then, or do it sometime during the school day, if not, then you have to keep in mind that you have to have some available for them to make up work. Okay, so we'll just leave that kind of up to you. So you just have to have something in place for them to make them work if they need it. All right, real simple on the smoking. This is a smoke-free campus. You cannot be smoking on this campus. On this campus meaning in your car, parked in the parking lot. In the middle, that's right. I had, they're no longer with us, but I had some folks go from here to right there, and I had to call them and tell them something because I forgot. So I called over there and said, "Is Miss So-and-so made it there yet? Or Mr. So-and-so made it there yet?" No, I just seen them drive by, went around the block, kept circling the block, then eventually showed up. So we know what they were doing. They were doing this smoke break. So I don't know how many people smoke, and I don't know, but just keep in mind, this is a smoke-free campus. So, you know, I know they got them patches. It's only that bad. They got them patches. They got some spray corner. All right. The things that we must have, when we talk about our framework, and later on you'll see the format of the framework. That's something we started 9 years ago. And we franchised our frameworks, and we want all the frameworks to look the same. Your lesson plan has your framework in there, so your lesson plan, your framework on the board should look like that. And to be honest with you, I'm gonna pay more attention to these frameworks because some frameworks look good and healthy, and some frameworks look like they were anorexic. So it has to be good and healthy. When we come in there, then we can look at that framework, and it has to be up to date. It don't need to look like it needs to be fed. All right, so make sure your framework is like it needs to be. Talk about lesson plans. We're going to take out, because of Schoology, we're going to try to not do the posted words because we're going to monitor how much conversation we have with our students. There's a place in Schoology where you can comment, so we're going to try that. So we'll take, that was one of the things we said we'll take off. Continue Ratan as standard, and the way the new lesson plan is set up, there's no need for a word wall because they're getting the vocabulary as with Ratan as standard. Instruction we still have to have the opening work and the closing session. We have to update this because we had where doors was remaining open during instructional time, except testing videos. We kind of left that to your discretion. Hawk time should take care of differentiated instruction. Make sure you familiarize yourself with the 6-step discipline plan because we'll be looking for those 6 steps, especially for those minor things that we need to take care of in the classroom. Now, of course, there are things that jump completely over the 6th step. You know, fighting, cursing at a teacher, just some called big disruption, a big disturbance or something like that. In your classroom, you all have those white buttons. Those are your intercom buttons. You know, and I say this every year, do not get into a confrontation with a student. Just hit that button, disengage yourself, and then here we come. Okay? So don't get into a back and forth because they done pushed your button. Now we done said something that when it comes time to give consequences, that's all the parent is focusing on is what the teacher said. And they ain't worried about that the kid tried to strangle another child. All they worried about is, well, what you gonna do to that teacher because this is what the teacher said. So that's why and y'all know when they get to you, because you can feel it coming up. when you feel that thing coming up, just disengage yourself, okay? Just take a step back, hit the button, and just remember, you're going to win, okay? You're going to get the victory. And we're the same way in the discipline office. They come in there raising Cain, we're going to win. So don't do anything, don't deflate the football to jeopardize your win. Well, y'all don't know if that's an old Super Bowl thing, but disengage yourself, keep everything safe. A good thing to do is move your classes into the hallway. If you got one that's being disruptive and things like that, I forgot whose class I went to, and I walked in there and the young man didn't want to leave, and I just told the students, I said, okay, everybody else, y'all move out. Before the kids could get out the door, he was walking out too, because the audience is gone. And I guess he didn't know what I was going to do to him. I guess that dude didn't know what the world is he going to do to me when these kids look at this class. But I didn't even hesitate. I walked, I come on, I ain't going. I said, all right, everybody else, y'all get up. And the kids, they packed their stuff up and walked. And before they got to the trophy room, I was calling the teacher, telling him to bring them back, because he was following them out the room. But if they have that audience, that's where they'll show out. You take that audience away, then there's nothing else to show out about. And the last thing we need to do is get into that with them. So just keep that in mind. Just professional responsibility, we talked about that. We talked about the student portfolios. If you do it through your Schoology, when we have those faculty meetings, we need to make sure we bring or have a place where we can go and look at the students' work. Because y'all know, and some of us have been in those faculty meetings, where those kids have went home and blamed everything on the teacher. The parents walk in there, their lips already poked out before we even start the meeting. Every faculty meeting, you'll have an administrator in there, and every faculty meeting, we require the child to attend.
About the parent conference.
Parent conference, not faculty meeting. Parent conference. Okay? We require the child to attend, and we require an administrator. So if you're after school and you're kind of sitting in the office, and that parent is sitting in the office, a lot of times y'all already do that. You kind of separate yourselves. But do not have a conference without an administrator in there. Okay, because if it gets out of hand or something goes wrong, then we'll take over the conference. And sometimes we'll tell y'all to go ahead on out, and we'll either finish the conference or we'll call the officers for disruption of school or whatever. And we know our parents too, but sometimes when I know one is disruptive, I'll give Chief Hatcher a heads up. We'll have officers standing outside the conference room, and the parent don't even know the officer is out there. So we don't tolerate them coming up and showing out in school. I banned the lady last year. Now she's got problems because her daughter's just a 9th grader. So she knows she can't come on this campus, because we don't allow them to come in here and show out and raise Cain in the office and things like that. And the law don't allow it. And I don't have no problem charging them with disruption of school. They just cannot do it. So we do those faculty meetings for your protection. And some parents, I don't care what you tell them, their child walks on water. And that's their child. You know, all of our children walk on water as far as we're concerned sometimes. But, you know.
But the vast majority of the time, this parent conference is so beneficial because the parents only getting the benefit of that child's perspective.
Exactly.
You know, getting a good dialogue with the teacher and then the administrator. A lot of times things are resolved.
Slump down in that chair when they realize that.
Exactly. And you'll be surprised how and some of y'all know, when you got them artifacts, and you flip that notebook around and say, I always remember Miss Ferris, lady was raising Cain for 1 point. Wasn't she, Miss Ferris? Raising Cain for 1 point. And finally, Miss Ferris got her to understand it's all the things that I've done for him that I've showed you is the only reason he needs the 1 point anyway. And once that kind of registered, she still wasn't happy, but the point, she got the point. That the only reason he needed it, and that joke was lying, wasn't Miss Ferris?
He done his homework.
Yeah, he done his homework, and Miss Ferris done lost my work, and man, by the time we got through flipping that thing around and showing all the chances he was given and all of that kind of stuff, and the fact that the only reason he needed that 1 point is because all the things that she showed him that she had done. And finally, he told the truth. Finally, the evidence was so overwhelming against him, I ain't do it. And he finally told the truth. And we have several stories or incidents that happened that way. You know, and some of y'all have been a part of it. And when you flip that, and I'm gonna tell you, teacher conferences with teachers' kids are the roughest ones. I'm just going to be honest with you. Sometimes I be sitting across the table and I be thinking, nah, she's still teaching, though. I'll never forget it. Administrator, we had in the old building, we had a teacher out on maternity leave. Now we know how maternity leave works. What you gonna do about that math? What do you mean what I'm gonna do about it? The teacher's out on maternity leave. But it was a person in the school system that understands how maternity leave works, but when it came to their child being in the class of the teacher that was on maternity leave, then the maternity leave rules ought to be changed. And that's the truth. So have your stuff, because we as teachers, we know what right looks like. We know what it should look like. We know what formative assessments are. Because I'll be honest, when I go over, and if I have to go over and talk to teachers about my upcoming 7th grader, then I ask those questions. You know, well, if she missed that, what did y'all do to make it right? Or how did you formatively assess? Well, let me see your class average. You know, I ask those questions, because listen, I ain't Principal Grady. I'm Alan Grant, this is my child. So I ask those questions. So I know sometimes we're a little bit hesitant when it comes to our children about going to those conferences because, you know, that's a colleague or, you know, you don't want to be perceived in a different way. But you have to remember, you're going in the role of a parent. So in the role of a parent, you have all rights and things for your child just like everybody else's. So switch that gear and go on there as a parent because you know what right looks like. You know what right looks like. And also, in talking about that, if you become the role of a parent with a colleague here in the building, then you have to follow the conference format that every other parent follows. So that means that I don't go down the hall because Ashley Gray is in your class. I don't walk down the hall and say, Miss Parker, how did Ashley do on that test in the middle of the hallway? Because I'm in a whole different emotion. So Miss Parker say, hell, she didn't study. I don't know what Ashley doing. She got her head down, she just hasn't been cooperating. I'm not surprised she didn't fail a test. I'm in a whole different emotion. What do you mean she didn't study? How do you know she didn't study? It might be the way that you teach. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm in a whole different emotion. So don't confront, if you turn into the role of a parent, then we have to follow it, have to have an administrator in there the same way as any parent. Okay? We don't want no fussing in the hallway. And if you think teachers don't fight, YouTube it. YouTube it. They're in the hallway just to fight, and the kids are oohing and ahhing, and got two teachers in the hallway fighting. Now, I don't know if it was over land, I don't know if it was over grades, I don't know what it was over, but they confronted, and then they got to fight, and it ain't worth all that. Yes, ma'am. All right, we're going to hold right there and take a break, and we'll meet back up at tardies. We're going to do tardies differently this year. We're going to have two types of tardies. We'll have tardies to school, and we're going to have tardies while you're in the building. Okay. Tardy to schools will be the old tardy policy where they can get 3, you know, and when we get to it, you'll see it. The different one is tardies when they're in this building. There is no reason for students to be tardy when they're already at school. So we've tightened that up, okay? So what we're gonna do with tardies while they're in the building, first of all, it's not gonna start over at 9 weeks. If a student is tardy 3 times while they're at school, it's gonna be a conference with the administrators and an engagement with the parent for 3. Then when they get to 4 and 5, there'll be conferences with the administrator. When they get to 6, it'll be an engagement with the student, the parent, and the administrator. When they get to 7 and 8, conference with the administrator. When they get to 9, there's another parent conference. When they hit 10, they go on, not restriction, what's the word? Modified tardy. So after 10, every time they're tardy, is a parent conference.
Is that gonna be in their book that they get?
Yes, sir, it's in their handbook, and I'm gonna cover it the first day with them, as well as y'all cover it in the handbook.
But if they're tardy to stay out of class, we just handle the whole way, you know, if they come, go get a tardy slip,
That's
bring
it.
it back in.
The
Okay.
procedure for the teachers is the same.
Okay.
We'll track it in the office. They tardy your class, go get a tardy slip, and we'll track it. There is no reason in this building should they be tardy from class to class. If we know that we don't hold them, as soon as that bell rings, we get them out. If for some reason there's some kind of crisis or something going on that you had to talk to them for a few minutes and you think they're not gonna make it, you just give them a pass. But that can't be something of habit. But there are some situations where you may hold them for a couple minutes, and so you just give them a pass, and then that's okay. But I'm bell ring, I leave out of here like I'm supposed to. We gotta get them going straight to class. The thing that we cannot do is allow them to stand out. They go straight to class, and then they're gonna stand outside the door and talk. And then right before the bell ring, they dip into class. Okay? We need to get them in class, and they start their warm-up activity. Okay? Dress code is the same format. We're not gonna keep talking to them about dress code. We sitting on the stage the last week of school last year, and Charles Gaynor walked by, and I'm like, why do we keep talking to these jokers about dress code? But we had 2 students last year on modified dress code that I put them on. I'm sitting here every time I see your shirt out, you modify. Every time you shirt out, your mom was coming up here. His shirt was in every time I saw him after that. And he was crying. So same format, 1, 2, conference with the student, 3, student parent conference, 4, 5, conference with students, 6, engagement parent conference administrator. So 3, 6, 9, so that parent has been through 3 conferences, that student has been through 9 conferences, And then on 10, that student's on modified dress code. And every time they're out of dress code, we're gonna talk to their parents. 'Cause we're not gonna keep, because it gets to a point where it's just defiance. And we're not gonna keep telling them, tuck in your shirt. We're not. Sagging pants is automatic 0. That's a parent conference automatic. Okay? Now, it's your discretion. If your shirt is hanging out just a little bit, you can tell them, I walk up and say, you need to tighten up. You know, I'll tell them that, you need to tighten up. But if they're completely out, then that's a dress code. Okay? Yes, sir.
If you got some bigger students that obviously can't be tucked in.
I don't know none that can't be tucked in.
You know how some of them will wear, be big, some of them will be my size and want to wear a gum medium or large.
In the dress code, it says buy a shirt.
So even if they have to be pregnant, that's not a...
No, you didn't say pregnant.
Okay.
Now, pregnant is different. Okay, well, you just didn't want to say pregnant. I'm saying, pregnant, that's a whole different... We're going to be tolerant with the pregnant young ladies. Because sometimes we'll have some pregnant where the doctor tells them, don't tuck them in. But y'all will know who they are. Pregnant is different. But you know, other than pregnant, you know, they just have to buy something large enough. Now, if you get students in that situation, send them to me because I have vouchers. And if they need some, we know kids, you know, if I have some that need some assistance, I can help them with that. Okay, so if it's an issue and they confided in you, then you can come to me and tell me, or you can send them to me and tell me. I have vouchers that I can give them, and that they can purchase some their size. So.
And nobody should ever say, if they come in there and they tell any of these teachers or tell the administrator, oh, I just came from weight training because Ms. Andrews and me and Coach Hope stand right there at that hallway of the gym, and they make sure they're all in, and Coach Blocker makes sure they're all in. And a lot of them, as soon as they get around that corner with us, they want to pull them out.
Well, and you can't pull that with me because I was in the gym for 20 years, and I know they get 10 minutes to dress in. And I tell them, if any class you come out of, you should be tucked in all of these activity classes. Because they actually get an opportunity to refix themselves and tuck. So if they say I come from the gym, and they get to Ms. Brown's class where the gym is clean on the other side of the building, that's the wrong answer. Okay? Because in them activity classes, they get 10 minutes to dress out, they get 10 minutes to dress back in. So in those classes, they ought to be completely tough. Yes, ma'am.
I noticed this started a good bit year before last and got a little bit bigger last year. These boys will have their shirt tails out and they'll wear jackets and they'll zip the jackets all the way up. And you know that shirt tail's out when you see that because it's August, you know, and it's hot and they've got on jackets. And they'll do that every day. And so can you ask them to zip their jacket or something?
What I normally do when I see jackets, I ain't never seen one in August, but but when I see jackets, what I do is I just check the bottom. That's what I really do. When I see jackets, I just check the bottom. Because they can wear jackets and they can zip them all the way up. What I do is I check the bottom. If I see that shirt true, then I get them. And most of the time, if they got that jacket on, the shirt is long enough, it's but, you know, I don't know if you want to get into Sergeant Carter, you know, unzipping every jacket that walked by. You know, I'm not asking you to do that, but if you see it, if it's noticeable, then it's a dress code. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
What about these girls that are very large and they wear tight pants? Because I know sometimes girls that are average size wear tight pants, and it's a dress code violation. But then you'll see somebody that is really, really large and it's skin tight pants.
Well, they can't wear skin tight pants. So if you're ever in doubt, let me just say this about the dress code. If you're ever in doubt, just simply tell them, listen, I don't know if you're in compliance or not. You need to go to the office and check. and then let us
I've
check.
seen them in the hall a lot, and then my girls will say, or some girls, not just mine, but, you know, why didn't she get rid of her?
Well, if you see them, you need to say,
You know.
if they're in the hallway,
Bigger ones.
yeah, if they're in the hallway, they're yours too, right? So if they're in the hallway and you see them, you need to pull them. Say, listen, I'm not sure about that, but you go to the office and check. But if we do it in first period, if you do it in first period where we check, if you're not sure, just send them to us and we'll take them.
Is Miss Ingram the girl?
She is.
Dress checker?
She is. And I don't check. I don't see them. And they'll walk up to me.
Well,
Coach, ain't nothing wrong with this blouse. And girl, go to. You know, that's what kids do. They'll just walk up and, Coach, anything wrong with my skirt? My skirt ain't. Baby, I don't see your skirt. Go up to the office. But yes, Miss Ingram and Miss Walker is in there as well.
Coach, another thing they'll do also is they'll say, especially in the morning, we're at the metal detectors, well, you know, Mr. Bates, Mr. May, you know, Coach Gray, they saw it, they didn't say anything. Well, we didn't necessarily see it, we saw them, they may have had a jacket on, or we might have been, you know, engaged with someone else. It's best to always have it right, just send them up, send them a dress code if you're not certain, and that way that we can kind of, you know, verify in writing that it is a violation or it is acceptable. But that's not a valid excuse saying we saw it.
That's right. And we'll send them back saying this is okay or it's not. Okay. Now, if we send it back and saying it's okay, just take our word for it. Don't go down the hallway. If your opinion is not okay, then write the dress code referral. If you're not sure and you send it to us and we check it and we say it's okay, then it's okay. You don't need to go 4 doors down and tell them, can you believe they said it's okay? If you don't think it's okay, do a dress code. If you're not sure, send them to us.
I just go ahead and write the dress code referral and then put please check on it.
That's fine.
And then they'll put okay on it.
That's
or
fine
not,
too.
you know.
Yeah.
And then I know I don't have to worry about it.
But sometimes, you know, that's good, but sometimes if you don't want to get into a confrontation, sometimes writing the dress code, if it's going to cause a confrontation, you just send them with a pass, and then we'll write the dress code if it's out of order. Or like you said, if you write the dress code and say, listen, I'm just, as their pass to us, and you tell them, I'm not, you just need to go get this checked, that's okay. So if you write the dress code and you say, no, I'm not sure about this, you need to go get it checked. And then we'll either add the dress code or we'll send them.
That's what I tell them. I said,
That's
if you're
right.
okay, it won't happen.
That's right, that's right. So that's the adjustments we made with tardy enforcement and dress code enforcement. It's in their handbook and it's in our handbook as well. So when we get to it, we've already talked about that. So we got chairs with feet on around here. All right. All right. Okay, we do have, you know, big thing is documentation. We got to document. You never can have too much documentation. You know, you got parent conferences, parent night letters, sign-in phone conversation, emails, document. Parent communications, when we go to parent communications, as far as standard 10 is concerned, we're not really looking for, I sent home a parent night letter. That's kind of a given. I sent home a parent night letter for parent night. You know, that's kind of, we talking about something outside of that, like an email or phone conversation, remind one-on-one, things like that. The parent night letter, matter of fact, we got the parent letter committee now, who really, y'all fill them out, but we got the committee who puts them in the envelope and send them. So when we talk about standard 10 in parent communications, we're looking for other things than stuff that's automatic. You know, we do have them sign in for parent night, but you know, as far as documentation as as to, you know, we take that in consideration. Yeah, they signed in for parent night, that's good. But what did we do to contact those parents specifically? Okay. Now, you know, Remind 101, School of G, all of that stuff does count because that's kind of outside of a parent matter home. Okay? So just document. All right, parent night, those are the dates of parent night. 4 times a year, we have dates to remember. Parent night, y'all, let's try to, well, that's one of those mandatory things that we have to be at. Now so look at your calendars, make sure that's why we give you these dates early, because on parent night, we want you to be here. Okay, formats. Teachers are expected to send parent letters to contact the parents of students not experiencing academic success. Parents and teachers will attend a short program held in auditorium before visiting with the teachers in the classroom to receive the progress report. At this time, you know, we want to keep those conferences short, and if they want to have further discussion, we encourage them to set up a parent conference. So on parent night, everybody meet in the cafeteria, and y'all know that I just mentioned we do our little entertainment, and then we dismiss y'all to the class, and then the parents go to the class. Now, of course, we get some parents that want to go straight to the class without coming in there. That's why I need all of y'all in there. Because if they see one of y'all standing by the door, they're going to try to do parent night early. We know our physical inventory. We need to make sure that we know our inventory. That actually saved us this morning. I thought up in the old IF room, I thought a table was missing out of there. I mean, I'm like, I know we had 9 tables in that room, and that table is missing. And I'm gonna call over the board office, because I couldn't find it in this bid. I'm gonna call over the board office to see if they came in here and took one of my tables. But we pulled up the inventory, and what happened when the cleaning crew put them back in, they just configured them differently. And I didn't remember the original setup. So I thought it was I thought it was 3 rows of 3, where before it was 2 rows of 4. But they put 3, 2, and 3, so I thought a table was missing. So I was able to check the inventory and see that that table wasn't missing. All right, yeah. All right, professional growth plan. That's something that this year, Doc alluded to it. That's something that everyone has to, finish in the TEACS platform. It's a professional growth plan. She talked about it in her meeting. That's something that everyone has to complete. I also have the way that you all are going to be evaluated, so I have to tell you all that as well, the way you're going to be evaluated this year. If somebody's on a professional development plan, which is a PDP, then that evaluation is a little bit different than everybody that's on a regular evaluation. But I'll talk to y'all more about that, and as far as walkthroughs and evaluations. All right, our professional learning activities. Our teachers are expected to participate in all professional learning. Attendance is required at departmental professional learning sessions, and these are those in-service dates. And you know, we'll still do our, once we get rolling, we'll still do our PLCs and that kind of stuff. All right, some reminders. Faculty and staff is not to leave campus during school hours without permission from an administrator only. You can't walk out the door and tell the secretary that it's got to be from an administrator. And the excuse that I can't find one is no longer valid. You have to find one of us. Now, once you get the approval, you need to go to leave campus. You need to go to Ms. Shedrick. And Ms. Shedrick will have a clipboard. And you'll sign that clipboard, and you'll sign where you're going and the time you left. When you come back in, you'll sign back in at the time that you return. All right? It's an accountability piece. It's not saying that you can't leave, but you get out there and you have an accident, God forbid, or anything that causes you, and y'all heard me say this for 9 years, anything that causes you not to be out there, then that's what it is. You know, you get out there and...
Or they'll call and say, oh, we're wasting my tax dollars, they're driving around.
They will do that. But I got a call one day, and I've said this before, y'all heard it. My phone rang, it's Dr. Hinton. What is, I'm behind so-and-so in here. I said, no, Doc, that wasn't her. I just walked past her. Well, don't she drive this, that, and that? I said, yes, ma'am. Well, I'm behind her. I said, no, Doc, I'm telling you, I just walked by. Then the person turned, you right, that's not her. But that's a true conversation. So on the flip side of that, I'm behind Mr. Bates. What is Mr. Bates doing? Bates ain't saying nothing to me about leaving out of here. Then there's an issue. Then there's an issue. And you leave yourself uncovered. You're not getting over on me. You know, if you slide out the back door, you ain't getting over on Dr. Gray. You just better pray don't let it happen to you while you're out there. See, because now it goes into, you know, you're out of inauthorized area. Now, do your insurance kick in? Do your school insurance kick in? Do anything that's involved in the school, do any of that stuff kick in? Because you were somewhere you didn't have any business. And y'all know how these insurance companies are. Insurance company, if you don't know, the insurance company are for profit. They don't want to pay the claim. I had a friend of mine who owns a state farm in Cleveland, and we were talking about that. And she was talking about how they screen their customers. I said, screen your customers? Yeah, because we don't want to sign somebody and then they do a claim next month. I said, well, that's what y'all do. No, we want to build it up. So you get out there and then something happens, then you got all of this stuff to deal with. And I can't help you. But there's been times where, you know, somebody called me and said that one of our teachers was in Walmart. Oh yeah, Doc, she's in Walmart picking up the supplies for this, that, and stuff. Oh, okay. Because if you think you don't go to a grocery store or you in McDonald's doing a school day, if you think they won't call up there and tell them they tax dollars, they will, they'll tell them. Because newsflash, everybody ain't for public schools. Everybody ain't for it. Ask the people, go to that board office when we had that meeting on this new building and see how many people was in there. So just protect yourself. So for me, what I have to do is come up with a plan so that I can protect me. Because y'all know when something happens, the first thing they gonna want to know is what's your protocol. Well, when teachers leave the building, you don't have that in place. And you know some of us, when we're drowning, ain't nobody told me about leaving the building. Ain't nobody told me that I needed to check in. When we're drowning, that's what we'll do. So that's why we had to put that procedure in place, because unfortunately, you know, we have to make sure that everybody's covered. Just like the children, I have to look out for y'all as well, so you don't do something to hurt yourself. All right, any questions on that? Of course, that's highlighted, so that's new. Routine stuff, we have to look at it, make sure it's approved. You know, anytime I was in Sparta at a basketball game last year, and it was senior night, and they had a dance routine. And when they put them chairs out there on that floor, I knew it wasn't gonna be good. I don't know, was any of y'all at that game? Were you there? You were there? When I saw them girls walk out there and plop them chairs down, I said, oh Lord, where's my daughter? Let me cover her eyes. And it was so bad that I was standing by the door, because I come in from the concession, I was walking by, and our own children called me and said, Dr. Gray, we would never be able to do that. I said, you got that right. So whenever you see them with them chairs, it ain't gonna be nothing pretty. And it wasn't that. So we can't, that's why we have to, we had some dance groups. We had some dance groups, a little girl, that wanted to do a halftime performance. So I said, okay, well, bring your little group in and let me see the routine. So I saw the routine, everything was good, these were little babies, but guess what? When they started dancing, what they showed me, they wasn't doing everything on that floor. What's that thing called? Twerking? The only thing saved me is they were little babies, and nobody really paid much attention to it. But I was sitting next to Dr. Henry, she looked at me and said, you approved that? I said, Doc, they didn't, but if they had been older girls, then I'd have had an issue. There'd have been problems. So after that, no more helping with outside groups, but that's what they'll do to you. But like I said, the only thing that saved me is they were little. Some of y'all might have been at that game too. Music, play, we have to approve those for obvious reasons, because what kids think is appropriate is not appropriate to be played at ball games. And a couple years ago, we were in Johnson County, and our cheerleaders were saying a cheer, and I was just so proud that everybody in the stands knew that cheer. I said, wow, how did everybody in them stands learn that cheer? They must have practiced with the fans. You know, all the kids knew the cheer. Well, I'm riding home and my phone rang, and it's Dr. Henry. And her son, Kyle, is a DJ. So the cheer, even though we changed the lyrics to make it school appropriate, come to find out it was one of the nastiest rap songs. So what you got is, you got the cheerleaders done changed it to make it appropriate. Well, you got one of our most popular kids on the other end of the gym done changed the words back to the original Rated X version. And I'm sitting there as proud as I could be because the whole crowd knew the cheer, not knowing. So of course I taught cheerleaders, say, lady, we can't rearrange songs. I know that it's got a good beat and everything, but keep getting them out the book from cheerleaders from Walmart. But that's how things will, as an administrator, that's how things, no, it wasn't that cheerleaders. Yeah, it wasn't her cheerleaders. So that's why we have to look at that stuff. Students must remain seated until the bell ring in the class. Teachers do not leave your class unsupervised for any reason. That's one of the reasons why we have those assistant instructors or administrators. So if you got to leave, we got an assistant instructor every period to help you with that. We talked about the smoke-free campus. Don't allow students to sleep in your class or allow them to place their head on the desk with an attempt to go to sleep. As far as I'm concerned, if your head is down, then you sleep. So teachers, please don't ignore that. The thing that I hate to do the most is I walk by and I see a kid with his head down, and I hate walking in a teacher's room and, you know, get your head up. I mean, I hate that. I hate that, but I'll walk by and then I say, well, let me walk clear around, then maybe he or she would notice it and get him up. But then I walk back by and the head is still down. So just be conscious of that, because we let them lay their head down, eventually they're gonna go to sleep. No teacher, staff, or substitute can deny a student a pass to the restroom. This cannot be defended. I know we talked about our pass system, we'll do that again. And I know we talked about when the students use their 3 passes, we do kind of up the consequences past lunch detention. So we discussed that kind of at the end of school. Our pass system is for everybody. Make sure that you use the pass system. No longer do we do a clipboard and put a pass on and hand it to kids and walk down the hallway. They go to the notebook, follow the procedure in every class in this building. So don't change our pass system. And if we deny, you know, please don't deny a child to go to the restroom. Because if they go on themselves, I can't help you. It's nothing we can say. Yes, ma'am.
Are we still required to have the substitutes call someone to?
When we have substitutes, they're on they automatically on pass, the whole class on pass restriction. So what that means, if a student wants to leave a class with a substitute, we go get them, take them, and bring them back. You'd be surprised how many fewer calls that we get when kids that leave the classroom.
Now, I know there was a thing as far as, I know Mr. Bates had mentioned, if there is a substitute and you ask to go to the restroom, because you had that 5 minutes in between, then they should write up a council referral. And there was kind of some confusion. Should a referral be written up if they ask to go when there's a substitute?
Well, they'll be on restriction just from consistency, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But right now, they'll be on, we'll go get them.
Okay.
And take them back. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
when the student asks to go to the restroom or leave the room, what about when we need to see a student in the counselor's office? Do we call?
And they have a sub?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll go get them.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go get them, just for the sake of consent. Because we all know with subs, everybody got to go and everybody got to go at the same time. So that has really helped. Anything else on that? All right, if anybody feel like a student's taking advantage of the restroom policy, just bring it to our attention and seek assistance from us. Teachers are allowed to issue excessive number of passes to students. When your bell rings, get them out of there. Unless it's one of those extenuating circumstances that I talked about before. Please do not allow students to leave your classroom without a pass. The destination of the student does not matter. I should not come up on a student and they don't have a pass. So make sure that they get a pass before they leave your room. Please do your duties on time, and don't leave your duties until relieved by the bell or if it's another person. Organizational chart when dealing with issues, that's put in there because you need to give us an opportunity to handle issues. We don't call directly to the board, we don't call directly to the superintendent. All right, you need to follow your chain of command, and then if we can't solve your issue, I'll go with you to the superintendent and to the board. All right, because eventually it's gonna come back to me anyway. All right, so please don't, and with a small community, that's easy to do, because a lot of us went to school with a board member, so it's easy to walk by and say, did you know You know, those kids, and, you know, walking in them hallways, and I don't know nothing about it. Okay, so they pay me to manage the school, and like I tell Dr. Henry, she got to do it, and she needs to find another principal. So don't follow the chain, so that we can work these things out here first. Give us an opportunity here first. Discipline is everyone's issue. Faculty and staff members must address discipline issues whenever and wherever it happens. Classroom, hallways, lunchroom, etc. We talked about that example a little bit earlier. So if you see something that's not right, then don't just ignore it. Don't let kids sprint down the hallway. If they sprint down the hall, y'all, they tardy. And I can't tell you, and I try not to, you know, sometimes, you know, I don't want to embarrass anybody. I really try hard not to do that. But I have a real issue when we stand at the door and the kids start at this end because they running late, and they done passed 4 teachers on a dead sprint and nobody has said anything. That's a safety issue. Please don't allow them to sprint. You don't have to, you don't have, if you can identify the student, then you just sit up and let us know, or the classroom they go in, or you can call us, and we'll be able to identify the student through the teacher. You know, you don't have to run after them or grab them, you know, and, you know, stop. You know, you can say, you know, stop running, or don't run. Because I do it. Stop running. You know, then they'll slow down. If they don't, then we'll deal with it. That's a safety issue right there. We talked about that before they leave an activity period, making sure they're in proper dress code. Well, valuables, netbooks is no longer an issue, but valuables, make sure that our activity teachers provide a place for them to lock up their valuables. Our policies and procedures must be followed by every faculty member as written, not to your own interpretation. So if you need an interpretation of something, you can ask one of us and we'll clear it up. Student policies and procedure violators must be addressed by all faculty and staff members whenever and wherever the violation occurs. So we'll skip that. We're going to do Scantrons. Our school-wide hall policy, 3 hall passes per 9 weeks. Passes will be used when the student requests to leave the room. And then there's another corner when the student is called to the office that don't count against them. For the newer teachers, we'll get more into that. Department chairs, get with the newer teachers and kind of go over that with them. Teacher, you keep a folder in every class period with the students pass in the folder. It needs to be at the teacher's accessibility or where you can see it. Students must fill out for every time the student leaves the classroom and returns. The alternative passes are used for situations. Those are the passes in the corner when they're called to the office and not using one of their, they don't substitute as for one of their hall passes. If a student is sent to ISS or go home, the secretary will keep the student's pass sheet and place it in your mailbox. So you have to check your mailbox. And teachers, be sure to check the return time on the passes when they come from the office or the counselors. If students go in unrestricted areas, we have a restricted pass list, and that seems to work pretty good. But if I walk through the cafeteria and they over at the snack machine, then I know they don't have a pass to the snack machine. So then they go on a restricted pass list. And we'll email that list out to you all, and y'all know what the restricted pass list, if they're on that list, when they want to leave class, we come get them, take them, and bring them and take them back. So that's been in place for a little while.
Dr. Gray.
Ma'am?
I didn't know we were supposed to write on their task that if, like, we send them to 1 hour.
Okay.
I mean, it says if the students at the ISS, I thought that the slip was the pass.
Yeah, it is. Sure. 1 hour, it is. The 1 hour slip, if you send them the 1 hour, then you give them that. But that's an office thing. And so then they'll come up with that, and that is the pass. Just like the discipline referral. Discipline referral, the 1 hour slip, the dress code slips, that's their pass to go through the hallway. I'm talking about something other than that.
Well, they may have been sent to the office, and you may have used that one alternate pass, you know, whatever reason we call them up there. Then they're sent to ISS. Well, then that's why we put the pass in your box.
Right.
So that's what they're saying, just check your box.
Right. Yeah, that's why we said check your box. It's because they may not be coming back to you. Or we come to the office and then a parent is here to sign them out or something like that.
Dr. Gray.
Ma'am?
Do you want us, these students that, you know, you have a student every now and then have the bladder, have the doctor's excuses and the ladies that are expecting. But would you just go ahead and, when they use up their passes, just fill in it, use the non?
You can do that in the bottom.
Okay, and just do it in the bottom.
Or even if you want to, just have them fill out a, you know, an extra pass sheet for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, any circumstances like that.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a, y'all listen, I can write a book. We had a teacher several years ago, they retired now. I mean, this young lady was out, I mean, she out here. And the young lady had to go to the restroom and she wouldn't let her go. And I said, well, why wouldn't you let her go? She don't have a doctor's note. I said, you kidding me? The darn girl is like in her, is it 4 trimesters? What is this? I said, well, how many trimesters? 3 trimesters. All I do is feed and clothe the babies. I don't keep her. But she was, I mean, way out there. And she didn't have a doctor's note. But anyway, so use your, you know.
You got how many kids?
7th period. Not allow early release students to stay in the room during 7th period unless they are making up work, and only administrator can approve sending, we talked about that, unsupervised. Now, the early sign-out students, there are some situations where, or early sign-out and even our dual enrolled students, there are some situations where they help, like with the yearbook, or there are certain situations where I will allow them to, on their days that they don't have to go to class, come back, but you just have to talk to us about that. All right, we talked about signing in and out. Make sure you sign in on the computer, or you can get here early enough to sign in on your computer. If not, it's in the room. And we talked about not leaving campus without permission from the administrator, and where you have to sign out and back in with Ms. Shepard. We already talked about the 6-step discipline plan, student debt. Sponsors and coaches will monitor student fundraising activity to ensure students not accumulate debt. If we have, if anything that the students, we give students, and well, we shouldn't give students anything and then think they're going to pay for it later. All right, what I mean is, if I'm a basketball coach and we order basketball shoes, I don't issue that student those shoes until they pay for them. Because once you issue those shoes, then, you know, I had one incident, we issued some shoes, it wasn't basketball, and the parent didn't want to pay for it. So what they told me is, I didn't know, I didn't know my son or my daughter was getting those shoes. Now, I mean, I got my money. I mean, I got the money, but that's the type of argument that they would use. Well, nobody called me and got my permission to get him them shoes, and the kid been wearing them all season. But when they don't want to pay for it, that's what they'll use. And those uniforms, or if they have to purchase, I know my cheerleaders and my band and my auxiliary and stuff like that, have all that stuff in writing and have them sign for it. Have them sign that they understand. Because when I was coaching, you know, oh well, you didn't have those shoes. I mean, I wanted my team to all be out there in the same shoes, but if you ain't paid for them, oh well. You're going on out there in whatever you wearing, because I'm not going to fight to get the money for those shoes. Of course, we learn by experience. Early on as a young coach, I was just passing out shoes, and everybody gonna pay me later, and I'm sitting there at the end of the school with a shoe bill. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna pay it, and all the kids and forgot I gave them shoes and wore my shoes to do farming and everything else, and I'm stuck with a school bill, with a shoe bill. So you don't want to put yourself in that situation. Debts have to be paid in cash or money order. If it's a textbook, a library book, Ms. Bradley for library books and textbooks, Ms. Shedrick for school debts. Once a student is turned in for a debt, the student will pay Ms. Shedrick. Ms. Shedrick will notify the teacher/sponsor that the debt has been cleared. Please do not